What's up, everybody? Greg2G, long time no see. I am here to talk to you about a game that I really fell in love with in 2025 that I completely did not expect to fall in love with either. Like, I honestly, when I first saw the trailer for the game, I was kind of, I didn't think it was going to be very good. And I almost didn't even want to try the CBT. But we're talking about Game of Thrones, Kingsroad. So yeah, the CBT started. Got accepted and everything. I almost didn't even want to install it and try it. But after the second or third day, I was bored enough. I installed it, and oh my god, I was instantly hooked from the intro. And the Game of Thrones. And I'm sorry, there's no music, by the way. I've heard other creators saying there's lots of copyright striking going on with the music in this game, because it does have a lot of the great tracks that you would hear in the actual TV show. As you can see, the Jon Snow is in there. This game, as far as the timeline goes, it takes place shortly after the Red Wedding and well before the end of the TV show. So it's kind of right in the middle there. And yeah, I don't want to spoil too much about it. It definitely has a lot of new content. There are characters in the game that do not appear in the TV show but are in the books. So it's kind of, yeah, it'll be familiar but also new at the same time. Real quick, I put together this little trailer for everybody. If you would like a little spoiler, a little peek into what's part of the story. This is really early on in the game. The demo and the CBT, only like the first two chapters were available, and they're supposed to be like 50. So this is really early on in the game, and yeah, just check this out real quick and see. Let me warn you first, though. The graphics in the game do look dated. I'll admit that. That was in the CBT and the demo. So if it is actually if this is the final version of the graphics, yeah, I'll admit they do look dated, but the story and the immersive open world more than make up for the dated graphics to keep you interested. Let's roll the tape.
Well, if it isn't our good-hearted guest.
Do you remember the day the Stark heirs died?
I remember. Them and that damn snake, Theon Greyjoy. Lord Eddard took him in, raised him near like his own. And how does he repay that kindness?
A nobody from up north requesting an audience with my father, eh? The punishment for theft is losing a hand. Assaulting a lord's tax collector is far more serious. Go fetch Reek when you're done. I found a little friend for him to play with.
All right, so there was a little bit of a taste of the story there. One of the most infamous characters in Game of Thrones, as you saw there, and yeah, there's a lot more. There's a lot more of that to come. The game is, as you can see, I'm gonna have some little bit of gameplay running in the background, a little bit of the open world. We'll take a look at some combat too. But yeah, massive open world, as you can see here. Lots of things to explore, lots of random events that you'll find in the middle of nowhere, conflicts, decisions that you need to make, as far as whether you want to see. There's a lot of Boltons here, and you have to decide in some situations if you want to help the commoners or help the Boltons. In some cases you don't really have to. The decision is a lot easier. In some cases, it's a lot harder of a decision, and it seems like there's going to be a huge reputation system and a lot of stuff connected to that, and however you decide to make your decisions with your character. Now let's check out a little bit of combat. First up, we'll talk about the classes. This is the Assassin, one of the 3 classes you can choose from. The one I played the most in CBT, and we'll show some Knight a little bit later. I played Knight the most in the demo, the Steam Next Fest demo, and then there's also the Sellsword, which uses an axe. but he's the big brutish guy. So you got the little quick guy, the assassin. You got the medium-sized guy as the knight, who also has some like protection and a healing ability. And then you got the big brutish sellsword. And yeah, he's just a big brute. Like if you just look at the character, like all three characters are very different in their size and character customization options. Like you cannot make a skinny sellsword, you can't make a tiny knight, you can't make a giant assassin, but they're all a lot of fun to play. I liked the knight and the assassin the most myself, but the sellsword's also really good. I think they all have their spot in the game. So now let's have a look at the little bit of the knight gameplay. By the way, I apologize if this video seems rushed. It is. We were not expecting this game to be coming out until late April at the earliest. So this is all a big surprise to many of us content creators that it is coming out in a few days. Me personally, I usually like to wait until like the week before launch, before I start putting out videos. Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before launch, I'll start working on editing videos and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, the knight's gameplay. This is the knight, wields a two-handed sword, has a crossbow for a ranged weapon. I forgot to mention the assassin has a throwing knife as their ranged, and the sellsword has a normal bow as their ranged weapon. Honestly, I haven't really used many ranged attacks in these games. They are pretty powerful, but and there are some like sets and item stat rolls and things like that are very much that buff your ranged attack damage. So I was wondering if they're gonna add a fourth class that's more ranged attack focused or something. But maybe later on. At this point, it seems like they will be going at least into early access on Steam with these three classes. I will make a separate video later on with more details on all their abilities and stuff like that. I have many screenshots of their abilities and such. So I will go through into a little bit more detail about what abilities are available to the three classes. And so you might be asking yourself, what type of game is this actually? Is it an MMO, or what are we looking at here? It's mostly like the campaign and open world is mostly single player. There are some multiplayer things like you can see here, the Altar of Memories dungeon where you fight a spider boss. The Altar of Memories, the closest thing I could relate it to is maybe Monster Hunter. It's kind of like a multiplayer Monster Hunter queue thing where you go in and fight a big boss. Some people complain about this, hardcore Game of Thrones lore fans complaining about how this doesn't really fit into the whole lore and that sort of thing. But that's how you have to make a game, though. If you want to make a fun game, you have to add in stuff that doesn't really fit a book, So yeah, this is one of the big bosses, the giant ice spider that you will face in the Altar of Memories. Up to 4 players on that. There are also open world bosses, which are in the open world. You can find random people already fighting those. Up to 8 players can fight a world boss at a time, and the bosses are quite challenging. I'll have to admit, right here, I am pretty overgeared for this because if you'll notice that at the end here, I probably did like 90% of the damage if I actually get the rest of my combo off. But yeah, this boss is no joke. They're a lot of fun. 86.5% of the damage because I was a little bit of a overgeared and everybody else was struggling. And just one more quick one here. This is basically the only footage I got of the sellsword. You can see, big beefy guy. Right now I can't use any abilities because I used my what's the Fury, I think. It's an ability that basically buffs your basic attacks. Your left click is called the light attack, your right click is the heavy attack, and using that ability just buffs the attack speed on my basic attacks. And I wish I had recorded more sellsword for you guys. I'm sorry. But yeah, just of the 3, it wasn't my favorite, but I feel like maybe sellsword might be a slow slow builder. Like, he'll be really good once you start getting towards the max levels and stuff like that. I mean, he definitely was no slouch, and I definitely saw some sellswords that did a lot more damage than my knight or my assassin. So maybe I just didn't know how to build it right, or something like that. There's the sellsword for you. All right, I'm going to wrap up this video, and I'm going to start working on the next videos for all the classes and their abilities and all the information I have about those. Maybe some videos about progression, gear content, that sort of stuff too. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions about the game, of course, I haven't been able to cover everything. Make sure you leave a comment. I can pretty much answer anything. I know everything there is to know when it comes to, at least up until the end of the demo that was available in the end of the CBT, which was the exact same length as the demo. Anyway, thanks for watching. Peace out, and we'll see you next time. GG's.